within our English nationalism. Alistair Darling says you're involved in a deadly embrace with the SNP that threatens the future of the United Kingdom. Are you concerned that the two men who helped save the Union and therefore helped save your job are saying that in order to save your job now, you are, as Michael Forsyth said, threatening the Union?
Well, let me deal first of all with the tragic situation in the Mediterranean, which the loss of life has been appalling, and it's right that we act. And yesterday, at the European Council meeting, I proposed the HMS Bulwark, the Royal Navy's flagship, other cutters to come and help, and important work done by helicopters as well, so that we play, as Britain always does, our full role in helping out with this very, very difficult, very, very pressing issue, and we will. But let me be clear about what Ed Miliband has said this morning. I mean, I've learned as Prime Minister that it is so important in a dangerous and uncertain world that you show clarity, consistency and strength on these foreign policy issues. And I think, frankly, people will look at these ill-judged remarks and they will reach their own conclusions. Turning to your point about Scotland, look, the fact that the SNP is threatening to wipe out Labour in many constituencies, that is something that every pollster, every expert is saying. It is an emerging fact of this general election. I'm responsible for many things, but I'm not responsible for Labour's weak performance in Scotland. But in response to this fact, I think it is important to point out to people the dangers that this poses. That you could have a situation where nationalists from one part of the country are calling the shots for the rest of the country in a weak Labour government. Now think about it here in Lincoln. What chance will there be of that vital bypass going ahead if the SNP are calling the shots and putting pressure, vote by vote, day by day, on a weak Labour government? The Labour Party has already cancelled transport projects in other parts of the country. So this is a real danger that we face. But I don't just raise the problem, I have the answer. If we hold this constituency and win 23 more constituencies, there will be a Conservative overall majority government that can keep going with the plan, keep going with the jobs, keep going with the growth, and keep our United Kingdom united, not least by making sure devolution is fair and balanced across our United Kingdom.
If I may, I'd just like to add to the Prime Minister's answer on the foreign policy part of the question, having been Foreign Secretary for most of this Parliament. Foreign policy is not something you can just discover 13 days before polling day. This is the first time in 5 years that Ed Miliband has troubled himself to give a full-length speech on foreign policy. And I have worked with this Prime Minister, I've sat on the National Security Council with him for the whole of the last 5 years, and seen the consistency, the strength, the daily attention to discussions with world leaders, the knowledge of what is going on in every part of the world. I have never known in that time the Labour Party set out a different policy towards Libya or to the Arab world in general. And so I would say to him that he cannot lecture anybody about Britain's influence in the world when the last Labour government closed more than 30 of our embassies, never had a foreign secretary visit Australia in 13 years, withdrew from Latin America, closed the language school of the Foreign Office, all things we have had to put right under this government. And he cannot come to foreign policy with some ill-judged and opportunistic remarks after 5 years of saying very little at all. That's my view on his
We've got Neil Patterson from Sky next, and then Svenja from Bloomberg.
Prime Minister, just to stick with Libya just for a second, the leader of the opposition is today making a speech in which he directly links foreign policy decisions made by you and made by the then Foreign Secretary to not simply the lawlessness and violence that's taking place in Libya, but to the deaths of thousands of men, women and children. Do you accept any responsibility for that? How do you respond directly to that criticism?
But the people responsible for the tragedy in the Mediterranean are the criminal gangs and the traffickers who are plying this evil trade. And that is why I went to Brussels yesterday and offered the flagship of the Royal Navy, cutters, extra boats to help, all the intelligence and security information that we have, working with our partners to put an end to this evil trade. That is what we should do. As for Mr. Miliband's remarks, as I've said, what matters is strength, consistency and clarity on these issues, which is what this government has delivered. His remarks are ill-judged and people will make their own views and their own determinations about that, having read what he's going to say. Svenja from Bloomberg.
Thank you, Prime Minister. HSBC said today it's actively considering moving its headquarters out of the UK. Are you concerned about that? And what kind of signal does this send about London's future as a financial centre?
Well, London is, I think, the world's leading financial centre, and we've improved London as a financial centre, not least by changing the way we regulate banks so that we wouldn't have to bail them out with taxpayers' money in future, as the last Labour government had to do. But it is an important reminder of how vital it is that we keep a pro-enterprise, pro-business, pro-employment policy in our country of keeping taxes low, making this an attractive place to invest. And all the time I've been Prime Minister, that is what we've been doing, which is why we see record levels of inward investment coming here to Britain. We must keep on that with that approach and not put it at risk. I think we've got finally Gavin Hewitt from the BBC.
Prime Minister, you lead the Conservative and Unionist Party. Isn't there a danger in all of this that you will deepen division, emphasise that sense of separation? And in fact, this morning, the leader of the SNP, Nicola Sturgeon, said that you were doing everything you could to reduce Scotland's influence in the UK. And isn't that an example of the risk that you might be taking with this?
Well, I would make 2 points on that. First of all, the greatest danger to the United Kingdom is frankly to ignore the importance of a balanced constitutional settlement. The danger is that if you have devolution to Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, all of which not only do I support, but I have actually added to in a very clear way, if you don't balance that with an approach of English votes to English laws, that is the threat to our United Kingdom. The second thing I would say is that the way to end Scotland's influence in the United Kingdom is to follow Nicola Sturgeon's approach and break up the United Kingdom by taking Scotland out of the United Kingdom. I want a strong and proud Scotland inside the United Kingdom. I see all the time as Prime Minister how Scotland punches above her weight in the United Kingdom, just as the United Kingdom punches above our weight in the world. Look at the contribution Scotland makes to our armed forces. Look at the brilliance of Scottish entrepreneurs. Look at the vibrancy of Scottish arts and culture. All of that is stronger because we have a United Kingdom. You know, when I talk to my children about the country they're growing up in, I find one of the most exciting things to explain is that we are solving here in the United Kingdom one of the great challenges faced by countries all over the world, which is how do we successfully live together? And in our country, you can be Scottish and British, you can be English and British, you can be a Hindu and English and British, you can be a Jew and English, Scottish. We are solving one of the great conundrums of our time. And you can be even more proud of your Scottishness than your Britishness, but still want to belong to a United Kingdom. And it is the Conservative and Unionist Party that is the only one that has the balanced approach that says, yes, we will legislate for that stronger Scottish Parliament, for the Scottish tax-raising powers, for further devolution in Wales with the potential for another referendum. But as well as that, we understand there needs to be fairness. And English voters, quite rightly, should know that when there are issues that affect English schools or English hospitals, that it will be English members of Parliament that have the determining voice. That's the fairness that has been lacking. That's why today's announcement is so important. And this linked back to work that we have done over many years, but with a growing intensity to find the right way to bring forward these proposals, where William has done such an excellent job. It's a balance in our constitution. But frankly, when I look at what the other parties are saying, it is a balance you'll only get with a Conservative government after May the 7th. Thank you very much indeed.